The king who had everything and was miserable. Let me tell you a story about a man who had it all, and I mean all. Picture this, it's around 2,500 years ago, in a powerful kingdom in ancient India. Our main character isn't a peasant or a merchant. He's the crown prince. His name is Siddhartha Gautama, though you might know him by another name, one he'd earn much later. Siddhartha was born into unimaginable luxury. His father, the king, was determined to give him a life free from any suffering or discomfort. We're talking about palaces for every season, the softest silks, servants anticipating his every need, exquisite food, beautiful entertainment, the whole package. His father wasn't just being generous, he had a prophecy to fight. When Siddhartha was born, holy men predicted this boy would become either a great world ruler, or a great world renouncer. A spiritual teacher who would leave it all behind. The king, understandably, was rooting hard for option A. So, he built a fortress of comfort. Literally. He walled young Siddhartha in a paradise of pleasure, shielding him from anything unpleasant. Old age, sickness, death, poverty, sadness. Siddhartha wasn't supposed to know these things existed. The king's plan was simple: if the prince never saw suffering, he'd never want to leave his gilded cage. And for a while, it worked. Siddhartha grew up, married a beautiful princess, had a son, and lived a life of seamless, curated pleasure. He was comfortable. He was safe. He was, deeply, profoundly unfulfilled. Have you ever felt that? Maybe not in a palace, but in a life that looks perfect on paper, a good job, a nice home, a steady routine, and yet there's this quiet whisper inside, a sense that something essential is missing. That there must be more to life than just being comfortable. That's where our story really begins. Because Siddhartha was about to discover a truth that would shatter his world and eventually change ours, you were not meant to be comfortable. You were meant to be awake. The crack in the perfect world, the four sights. The king's security system was foolproof, but it wasn't human-proof. Curiosity has a way of leaking through the best-laid plans. One day, Siddhartha, now a young man, decided he wanted to see his kingdom. The king, in a panic, ordered the streets cleared of anything unpleasant. Only young, healthy, happy people were allowed out. The route was decorated with flowers. It was to be another extension of the palace, perfect and pain-free. But life, messy and real, has a way of showing up. On this first ride, Siddhartha saw something he'd never seen before, an old man. Bent, gray, wrinkled, leaning on a staff. Siddhartha turned to his charioteer, Channa, and asked, "What is wrong with that man?" Channa replied, "That is old age, my prince. It comes for everyone." Siddhartha was shaken. "You mean, it will come for me? For my father? For my wife?" "Yes, my lord. For all of us." The perfect illusion had its first crack. On a second outing, Siddhartha saw a man racked with disease, feverish and in pain. "What is this?" he asked. "This is sickness, Lord. It can strike anyone, at any time." The crack widened. On a third journey, the most shocking sight, a corpse being carried to a funeral pyre. Death. The ultimate end. The inescapable truth he'd been sheltered from his entire life. His reality, the one built on permanent pleasure and safety, shattered completely. But then, he saw a fourth sight. A sight that offered not a problem, but a potential answer. A man in simple, worn robes, walking peacefully with a begging bowl. His face was calm, his eyes were clear and bright, full of a quiet joy that Siddhartha had never seen in his palaces of pleasure. "Who is that?" Siddhartha asked. "That, my prince, is a holy man. A renunciate. He has given up worldly things to seek the end of suffering." In that moment, the trajectory of Siddhartha's life, and the spiritual history of humanity, changed direction. He saw the full truth of life, aging, sickness, death, and the possibility of a path beyond them. The comfort of his palace now felt like a prison. The silence of his perfect life roared with the question, if everything ends, what is the point? Is there a point? That night, at 29 years old, he made a decision that seems unthinkable. He looked at his sleeping wife and newborn son. He walked out of his palace of eternal comfort, into the darkness of the unknown. He cut his hair, traded his silks for simple robes, and became a seeker. He wasn't running towards something yet. He was running away from the lie of a comfortable, meaningless life. The false path, when extreme discomfort also fails. Now, Siddhartha didn't just swap one easy life for another. He went all in. If comfort was the lie, he thought, then perhaps its opposite, extreme discomfort, was the truth. He joined a group of severe ascetics. These were the spiritual athletes of their day. They believed that by punishing the body, you could purify the spirit. They slept on beds of thorns. They held painful postures for days. They fasted until they were little more than skeletons. Siddhartha outdid them all. He became so famous for his austerities that he was known as the supreme ascetic. He ate only a single grain of rice or sesame seed a day. He became emaciated, his ribs like the rafters of a hut, his spine visible through his stomach. He pushed himself to the very brink of death. And what did he find at the edge of human endurance? More suffering. Just a different kind. He realized something profound, this wasn't the answer either. Denying the body completely was just as imbalanced as indulging it completely. Starving himself wasn't leading to awakening, it was just leading to weakness and delirium. He saw that his mind, deprived of all nourishment, was becoming cloudy, hostile, and unable to concentrate, the exact opposite of the clear, aware state he sought. One day, too weak to meditate, he simply collapsed. A village girl named Sujata found him and offered him a bowl of milk rice. In that moment, he faced another choice, die clinging to a failed method, or live and find a new one. He accepted the food. His fellow ascetics were horrified. They saw it as a failure, a giving in to desire. They abandoned him in disgust. But Siddhartha had learned the second great lesson, the path to truth doesn't lie in extremes. It doesn't lie in drowning in pleasure or in starving yourself of all nourishment. Both are forms of bondage. Both keep you trapped. He was now truly alone. He had rejected the comfort of the palace and the discomfort of asceticism. He had nowhere to go, and that's when the real journey began. The middle way, the uncomfortable truth that sets you free. Weak but with a clear mind, Siddhartha found a quiet spot under a large, shady fig tree. He made a simple vow, I will not rise from this seat until I have found the truth. No more running. No more extremes. Just sitting with reality, exactly as it is. This is where the story reaches its climax. This is the moment of true confrontation. He wasn't fighting external demons or gods. He was facing himself, every fear, every desire, every memory, every doubt. He sat through the day and into the night. Legend says that Mara, the personification of temptation and doubt, launched his final attack. It wasn't with armies, but with thoughts. First, Mara sent his beautiful daughters to seduce Siddhartha, offering the comfort of desire. Siddhartha saw them not as beautiful women, but as the temporary, changing manifestations of craving they were. He remained unmoved. Then Mara attacked with fear, howling storms, torrents of rain, hurling great rocks and weapons. But Siddhartha's mind was so deeply calm, so established in equanimity, that the missiles turned into flowers at his feet. Finally, Mara launched the most insidious attack of all, the attack of doubt. He whispered, "Who do you think you are? You're just a failed prince, a failed ascetic. You don't deserve enlightenment. This seed of awakening belongs to me." He demanded a witness to prove Siddhartha's right to be there. Siddhartha, in a gesture of profound connection, simply reached down and touched the earth. "The earth is my witness," he said. He was claiming his place not through pride, but through humility and truth. He was a part of this reality, and he had a right to understand it. With that, Mara vanished. And then, it happened. The shocking moment, what he actually discovered. As the night deepened and his mind became perfectly still and clear, Siddhartha's awareness pierced through the final veils of illusion. He saw, with direct and unshakable knowledge, the true nature of existence. Here is the shocking, beautiful, and challenging truth he woke up to, the truth that made him the Buddha, the awakened one. He saw that at the heart of all our suffering is a simple, desperate habit. We cling to things that are, by their very nature, impossible to hold on to. Think about it. We cling to our youth as our bodies age. We cling to our health as sickness arrives. We cling to our lives as death approaches. We cling to relationships, to successes, to possessions, to identities, all of which are temporary, changing, and ultimately beyond our control. This clinging, this craving, this screaming desire for things to be permanent when they are fundamentally impermanent, that is the source of our pain. It's the source of that background anxiety in a comfortable life. It's the whisper that says, "This won't last." Because it won't. Nothing does. But he didn't stop at the diagnosis. He saw the way out. And this is the most liberating part. He saw that it is possible to end this suffering. Not by building a better, more comfortable cage. Not by numbing ourselves. But by doing the one thing we're most afraid to do, by looking directly at the reality of change, of loss, of impermanence, and by making peace with it. He formulated this understanding into the four noble truths, which are shockingly simple. 1. Life contains dukkha, suffering/stress/unsatisfactoriness. This isn't pessimistic, it's honest. From small irritations to great losses, life is inherently unstable. 2. The cause of this suffering is tanha, craving, clinging, thirst. Our constant wanting things to be other than they are. 3. There is an end to suffering, nirvana. It is possible to be free from this cycle of craving and disappointment. 4. There is a path that leads to the end of suffering. He called it the Noble Eightfold Path, a practical guide to living with wisdom, ethical conduct, and mental discipline. The ultimate shock. The end of suffering isn't a magical place you go to after you die. It's a way of being alive, right here, right now. It's the profound peace that comes when you stop fighting reality. When you stop saying, "I'll be happy when," and start being present with what is. He didn't discover a God. He didn't receive a secret doctrine. He discovered a law of the mind, as real as gravity is a law of physics. He saw the cause and effect of human happiness and unhappiness, and he mapped a way out. Why this matters to you? Siddhartha, now the Buddha, rose from under that tree, not as a god, but as a fully awake human being. He spent the next 45 years of his life walking across India, teaching this one message to anyone who would listen, kings and beggars, men and women. His core teaching was always the same: I teach only two things, suffering, and the end of suffering. He wasn't offering comfort. He was offering freedom. And freedom is often deeply uncomfortable at first, because it asks us to let go of the very things we think are keeping us safe. So, what does this 2,500-year-old story have to do with you, today, right now? Everything. Because you live in a world that is obsessed with the very project Siddhartha's father attempted, building a permanent palace of comfort. We are sold the idea that the goal of life is to avoid all pain, to curate a perfect existence, to cling to youth, to accumulate stuff, to constantly seek pleasure and swipe away anything unpleasant. And yet, rates of anxiety, depression, and that vague feeling of emptiness are higher than ever. We're more comfortable than any humans in history, and yet, so many of us feel that same whisper Siddhartha felt: this can't be all there is. The Buddha's story tells us that whisper isn't a flaw. It's a calling. It's your innate wisdom telling you that you were built for more than comfort. You were built for awakening. You were meant to feel the full, rich, heartbreaking, and beautiful texture of a real human life, with all its joy and all its pain, without being destroyed by it. You were meant to be resilient, compassionate, and deeply, authentically alive. The path isn't about moving to a cave. It's about bringing this awake quality to your everyday life. It's about noticing when you're clinging to a pleasant moment and fearing its end. Seeing when you're pushing away an unpleasant feeling, trying to numb it or blame someone for it. Choosing to simply be present with what is, just for a breath, without needing it to change. It's about trading the fragile comfort of denial for the unshakable freedom of truth. Thank you so much for staying with this story until the end. If this exploration of discomfort, awakening, and what it means to be truly alive resonated with you, you're why we do this. Want to go deeper? Subscribe for more stories that explore philosophy, meaning, and the big questions, all told in simple, relatable language. Like this video if it gave you something to think about. It helps others find these conversations. Share it with a friend who you think might need to hear that it's okay not to be comfortable all the time. The most fascinating stories aren't just the ones we watch or read, they're the ones we're living right now. What will you do with your one, precious, impermanent, beautiful life? Until next time, be well, and maybe, a little less comfortable. It's where the growth happens.